Without further ado, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Ted Shelton. Come on out, sir, and let's give it up for Ted Shelton.
All right. You guys all doing well? I hear a rumor that you guys are building the future. I just heard it about 15 minutes ago. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we call at Inflection AI seamless infrastructure. So what we believe is that the future of AI compute is not locked into NVIDIA. We love NVIDIA. We built everything on NVIDIA. And it is fantastic. The pace of innovation there is relentless. Anyone who's at GTC, the energy there was amazing. I was a little worried when Jensen said, as soon as Blackwell's shipping in volume, you won't be able to give H100s away for free. Like, wait, I have a lot of H100s. But nonetheless, what we do think is that a combination in the world of AMD plus Intel plus NVIDIA, plus all these other amazing startups that are coming along that are building inference-specific chips. Like, we're going to need to be able to operate these data centers in a combined heterogeneous way. And so we've been really focused on that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing and why we believe it's important and how we're doing it. But let me start with the number one question that I get from customers when I start talking to them about the future of AI. They want to understand, what is this going to mean for me as a company in terms of the compute that I deploy? Like, is this a nice little thing that, my employees are going to say, what should I have for lunch? I literally had that told to me as one of the top use cases by an employee of a company that I will not name. He's like, yeah, I always ask it, what should I have for lunch? Like, great. That is productivity right there. Is it just going to be little? Or is it going to start taking over my data center? Like, I keep hearing people saying, we're in this transition period, generational transition from a CPU-based data center to a GPU-based data center. So do I need to really think about this in an entirely different way? And I know one of the speakers coming up for you guys this morning is going to talk about the power requirements that we're starting to see and how this is growing on every front. Or is this going to be an incredible explosion in compute, more compute than I've ever had to think about before? And what I tell them is, you know what? It's that third category, right? There is a demand for compute that is going to completely outstrip anything that you can imagine. And we're already seeing this, right? So this is a chart from BCG. But if you wanted, I could put one up from McKinsey or Bain or probably 20 other consulting firms that would basically say the same thing, which is companies all over the world are investing heavily in AI. Not everybody. And you see, like in Japan, biggest market, 11% of companies are spending in that little black box. If you look at the legend over there, it's over $100 million in 2025. A company like JP Morgan Chase has already spent $2 billion on AI. Right, so we're already seeing leading companies in every industry sector leaning in and saying AI is going to be this huge transformation. But I will tell you, I don't think this is anywhere near enough. So when we start looking at our customers, so we're delivering inference to our customers. We're also delivering applications on top of that inference to our customers. And so we have some idea of what's happening inside those customers in terms of the consumption of these AI applications. And this is 3 data points from one of our largest customers. The number of tokens consumed per month per employee is doubling every 3 months. And what's driving that is the number of workers, of course, across their enterprise that are using this compute, the frequency with which they use it, but also the use cases are changing. And so people are putting more into the context window. And then there's this thing called agentic. And, it's kind of funny because in January of 2022, when Inflection AI was founded by Reid Hoffman and Mustafa Suleyman, they had a vision in January 2022 that AI would become a personal assistant, that it would support you in all the things that you want to do, including making restaurant reservations for you, or getting you lunch, or reminding you that it's your mother's birthday. the idea behind it was brilliant, and of course we haven't been able to fully achieve that yet, but we're starting to see now it coming to life, right? We're starting to see these models starting to actually take actions on our behalf. We've implemented MCP. Many of you probably already have MCP running in your environments as well. And so we're already doing work inside enterprises. What happens with agentic is that the amount of compute required explodes. It is 100x more tokens. And there's a whole bunch of different models, right? So this isn't going to be, I do everything in OpenAI or everything in Anthropic or everything in Llama. What we're seeing is polyglot customers. Polyglot meaning they are using lots of different models. For some reason, my graphic failed on the left-hand side, but that left-hand side, security, right? So one of the considerations that the enterprise has is about how am I making sure that my data is secure? And they're going to use private models that they run themselves. But there's also a cost concern. So there are activities that I'm doing, all I want to do is know whether that door is open or not, right? Very small model, half a billion parameter models. So very small models. In some cases, what I care about is latency. So I need a very, very fast response. And I don't know how many people already have an AI PC and are running models right there on their laptops. We've got models running on Apple and Android phones. We've got them running on Raspberry Pi. Right? You're going to see a lot of edge models. Of course, there are the big public models, and the big public models are going to do things that are extraordinary, and they're always, OpenAI and Anthropic are going to be out there ahead of all the other model developers, introducing the latest, greatest feature. And sometimes you're going to want that latest, greatest feature. In fact, sometimes you're going to want special capabilities. You're going to want to have that 15-second TikTok video. And so you're going to have an architecture that starts routing all of the employee requirements across all these different kinds of model families. And so when we start thinking about the compute and the infrastructure that's necessary to support this, it is going to be as complicated or more complicated than anything we've ever deployed before, right? It's not just about saying, I'm running a little application and I'm pinging OpenAI to get it to tell me what I should have for lunch, right? It is going to be running very complex, enterprise-grade applications that are performing work on behalf of our companies that will transform the way those companies operate, transform the way that we as employees work, transform what we're capable of as a species. And in order to do that, compute is going to be absolutely enormous. So let me talk a little bit about what I mean by seamless infrastructure. So the basic idea here is you should be able to run your inference workloads across multiple models, across multiple infrastructures, but be able to manage all of that compute from a central control plane so you understand how to distribute load and that you're making choices along the way about where a particular AI workload is going to run based upon that set of criteria I showed you before, the security, the cost, the latency, the capabilities or quality, and any sort of special features that you need, right? So you're going to need to be able to distribute all that, but you're going to want to keep track of what these employees are doing. So, OpenAI introduced infinite memory. So now when you use OpenAI, it remembers everything you've ever done, which may get embarrassing for some of us eventually. I don't really want you to remember that I asked that question. But nonetheless, it's there now. Not easily editable. But really think about it now from the perspective of this polyglot world, right? I don't want infinite memory to just remember what I did with OpenAI. I want it to remember what I did with all of the different models I interact with, right? So I'm going to need to be able to have that operating data that is actually helping me keep track of what employees are doing across all of my physical infrastructures, all of my logical infrastructures, all of my different models that are being interacted with, and all the workflows. And one of the reasons I'm going to want that is because the value to enterprises of this infrastructure is going to be that it becomes the knowledge base that drives the entire organization. So all of us use AI, I'm guessing. Okay, anyone not use AI? All of us use AI for our own purposes today. How many of us use it with our teams? How many of us use it in a way where we say, my team had a meeting today, right now, and I'm on stage, so I'm missing it. Can I go and ask our AI at Inflection, what happened in the meeting today? What did my employees work on this past week? Did anyone ever ask this question across my entire company, right? That's going to be a crucial part of the way in which this infrastructure scales inside the enterprise, and it will be customized and specialized for every industry, every company, and even down to functions and processes within the organization. And to do that, I'm going to have to be able to run the seamless infrastructure, and I'm going to want to be able to say to the NVIDIA sales rep when he comes in the door, you know, I really do like you, but I don't need to buy your equipment because my inference and fine-tuning and maybe pre-training at some point, runs across a hybrid infrastructure, hybrid cloud, hybrid heterogeneous compute environment across multiple chip architectures, right? So that's what, going back to what you were all told 20 minutes ago that you are building the future. I need you to build a future that is a seamless infrastructure, that gives me the power of choice, gives me the ability to be able to use best, cheapest, most effective, closest to the problem, but integrated. So let me talk a little bit about a case study. One of our customers that's been deploying our product now for about 6 months, and so is, I think, and I'm super, super impressed with what they've been doing, is Intel. And what Intel has done is made this heterogeneous infrastructure available. By the way, maybe they don't like it when we say it out loud, but yes, they use OpenAI. And when they use OpenAI, guess what? It runs in Microsoft Azure, and it runs on NVIDIA chips. So yes, Microsoft is a consumer of NVIDIA compute. But they didn't want to just be a consumer of NVIDIA compute, and they didn't want to just have their data in the cloud. They wanted to be able to say, look, there are certain things that we do that are top secret. And those top secret things, they need to stay on-prem. By the way, they also have fabs, and those fabs operate in air-gapped way, right? They're not connected to the internet. And so if you want to have compute inside a fab, it has to be in the fab, right? So they have a whole bunch of use cases where they need to have this heterogeneous infrastructure. And so what they've done is they've actually deployed our control plane to be able to manage inference across all the different cloud environments, and in fact also in their closed on-prem environments, and across multiple models, so that they can expose to their employees easy ways to develop agents to get work done, where they can inform the employees about the value proposition of using different models, right? They can say, this model is very expensive, but has these super special characteristics. This model is very secure because it runs inside our own data center. And so that infrastructure is now accessible to the employees through this easy to develop agent environment. We call it inflection point. Because it is going to be an inflection point for every enterprise to be able to enable your employees to be able to deploy this kind of technology. And we make all of their enterprise data discoverable, right? And so that's the other value of being able to have and manage these heterogeneous environments is if I have manufacturing data that I never want to have leave my controlled environment, I want to put compute right next to that, and I want to be able to control access to it by those employees. But I want that knowledge base to also be able to interact with other resources across the organization that may run in other data sets, in other models. And so being able to build applications that are polyglot, allow my employees to be polyglot, is going to be the future of the way in which we get real value out of these technologies. So with that, I want to hand it over to the next speaker. I hope you guys all have an amazing day here, and I look forward to meeting you in the main room. Please come up and ask me any questions about this in the future. Thank you.